I'm Jaideep Prabhu. I'm a professor of marketing here at Cambridge Judge Business School. I've spent my career studying innovation. In the first part of my career, I studied innovation in developed countries, in large corporations. But about 5 years or so ago, I turned my attention to innovation in emerging economies like India. And what I found there surprised me. In contrast to Western companies, I found that Indian innovators were very frugal. They were very good at taking cost out of the innovation process. Also, their mindset was very flexible. They were very good at improvising solutions and moving from one plan to another. And finally, many of their solutions were inclusive, aimed at getting people who are outside the formal economy into the formal economy. And we saw lots of examples of this kind of innovation in India. A great example of Jugaad or frugal innovation is the Mitti Cool fridge right here. The person behind this fridge is Mansukh Bhai, who comes from a village in Gujarat. He is from a family of potters. He has a high school education. In 2001, there was a very serious earthquake in Gujarat, and a lot of people lost their household possessions, including the matkas or the clay pots in which they store water. And he saw an article in a newspaper where there was a photograph of someone's matka broken, and the caption read, "Poor man's fridge broken." And he came up with this clay fridge as a way for people who are in villages in India to afford a fridge, even if they are not very rich, or also to be able to use a fridge if they don't have access to electricity. And like this, we have lots of examples of such frugal, flexible, and inclusive innovation coming out of countries like India. And in India, when you ask people how they describe this, they use the word Jugaad. So my co-authors and I wrote a book called Jugaad Innovation, which came out in 2012, about this kind of frugal, flexible, and inclusive innovation in India and other related emerging economies. Since the book came out, we have been amazed at the interest in frugal innovation in the West for the West. And this revolution has been driven by the availability of tools which have empowered ordinary people to do more with less. If we look at the West, in the last few years now, people have access to cheap computing and cheap computers. They have access to tools such as 3D printers. They can go to spaces such as maker spaces or fab labs where they can tinker and develop prototypes. And then they can even commercialize these. They have access to crowdfunding. They have access to social media and customers with very little advertising budgets. So the whole process of innovation can now be done very frugally. Even small teams of people in the West now, with limited resources, are able to do things that only large corporations could do maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Now, what is particularly exciting is that all these tools are coming to India. And young Indians now have the opportunity to combine their Jugaad mindset with these frugal innovation tools. Perhaps the most exciting development in India is the arrival of crowdfunding to India, as exemplified by this conference on crowdfunding in Hyderabad in March. I've also heard about maker spaces opening up in places like Bangalore. We know that India has a very young population. We know that entrepreneurship is increasingly very popular. And we are seeing young teams, often of students or recent graduates, forming to solve problems using all these tools that are available to them. And of course, at the heart of that is funding and crowdfunding. So it's very exciting for me to be part of this movement, to be part of this impact, deep impact conference in Hyderabad around crowdfunding. I look forward to hearing how the conference goes, and I look forward to seeing many companies coming out of this movement to make a difference in India.